It's time for the Duhcast here on Wrestling Perspective Podcast. I'm Dennis Farrell, and he's...
Your boy, James Ellsworth. I don't need you to introduce me. I'm the man who beat AJ Styles 3 times. The real first winner of the first ever Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. The man who single-handedly eliminated Braun Strowman from the Survivor Series 2016 match. James Ellsworth, duh.
And on the first season of Ride Along.
Oh, yeah, I was on the first season of Ride Along with Daniel Bryan. I mean, man, you know all about me. You knew more about me than I think I know about myself.
I went back and actually rewatched that Ride Along today. I watched it when it first came out, and I went back and rewatched it. I'm like, I wonder what kind of nuggets I can pull out of that episode and bring up on future podcasts. So there are a couple things I'm going to drop on you later.
That sounds great, man. That was a fun time there with Daniel Bryan, Dallas, Texas. The Ride Along taping. We had a good time with it, Daniel and I.
Let's start this podcast off and talk a little bit about the greatest Royal Rumble. We are less than a week away, and I'm kind of excited. This is every guy that sits in an office and has a computer's dream of live wrestling at noon on a Friday. I've moved my schedule around to be able to watch this whole pay-per-view. I almost feel like this is like day baseball games when you're in school and your parents come and take you out of school into a day baseball game. I hope the WWE utilizes this a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like, you know, it's definitely a good lineup. They have, you know, rematches from WrestleMania, like, you know, Braun Strowman. He's not Braun Strowman. Brock Lesnar's facing Roman Reigns for the Universal title, rematch from WrestleMania. Then you got Shinsuke Nakamura against AJ Styles in a rematch from WrestleMania. Then a 50-man Royal Rumble. So it's a hell of a card. We'll see what happens. We'll see how they treat it. It's the first time they've done something like this. I mean, they've had shows on a network before, special shows like from Japan and from like Madison Square Garden and you know, stuff of that nature. And they just wind up being house shows on the network. I think they're treating this one a little differently. You know, Triple H wrestling John Cena, just a heck of a lineup, so we'll see what they do with it.
A little bit later, we'll go over the card and maybe drop a few of our predictions. This is what I want to ask you about the greatest Royal Rumble. Does it downplay every other Royal Rumble from here on out? Yeah.
I don't. Well, number one, I don't think so, because the Royal Rumble's sacred. It's special. It's every January. I mean, to me, man, let me just say this. You know what I hate about the Royal Rumble these days? Man, like when I was a kid, when we were all kids, when you were a kid and growing up, the winner of the Royal Rumble main evented WrestleMania. And main event to us, you know, to fans, to the WWE Universe or to wrestling fans in general, the main event of WrestleMania is the last match. Not the second from last match, not the third from last match, not the fourth from last match. The main event of WrestleMania is the last match, and the winner of the Royal Rumble growing up went on to main event WrestleMania. It's just not that way these days. Like this year, Shinsuke Nakamura won the Royal Rumble, and Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar main event at WrestleMania, and Shinsuke and AJ were the third from last match. It's just a pet peeve of mine. It gets on my nerves.
You know, the last couple of years, I've really tried to pay more attention to how many minutes each guy comes out on the dot. Sometimes they short it. Sometimes they, you know, bring it out an extra 5 to 7 seconds. I find that's my new Royal Rumble game I play.
Man, like, I'll tell you this, man. When I was the Alamo Dome there in San Antonio, Texas, 2017 Royal Rumble, I was number 11, and I wasn't paying attention to the clock. I was just so happy to be a part of the Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble growing up for me was my favorite pay-per-view, and I got to be a part of it. But yeah, it does seem like they play with the clock because sometimes they have to hurry the show up. Sometimes they have to slow the show down. So they play with that clock. There's a reason why it's not the whole 2 minutes or whatever it is. It's not up on the Titantron the whole time.
Let me ask you an inside baseball question. Before you go at number 11, if you're standing behind the curtain, do they give you any marching orders? Like when you go out there, we want you to do X, Y, and Z, and this guy's going to eliminate you? Or is that all kind of fed through the refs out in the ring?
Well, my particular spot, that Royal Rumble Braun Strowman was all laid out, and Dean Ambrose and everything going. We were playing into my storyline there. But I tell you, they told me right before I went out, they're like, "Hey, hurry up and get to the ring. It's a long walkway." And well, my music hit, man, and I hate to put myself over it anyway. I'm such a humble guy, really. But like when my music hit, the crowd was just such a great reaction, man. Like if you go back and watch it on YouTube or WWE Network. I run to that ring and I high five like every fan on one side of the aisleway there, like as I'm just bolting into the ring. And Carmella, that's when her and I were first together, and she was like right behind me and she couldn't keep up with me. I was running so fast and I was so amped up and my adrenaline was kicking so high. Yeah, I bolted to the ring.
Let's talk a little bit about your week on the road. You had a couple successful shows. I got to finally meet you, and that was even a funny story in itself. We'll talk about, but you beat up on a little kid this weekend.
No, I did not. No, you can't see. That's not at all true.
I think there's video. There's video.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You go to the video. It's Grimm's Toy Show. What's Grimm's Toy Show? I'll talk about that a little bit. They have over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. It's a very successful YouTube show. It's wrestling based. It's literally just a bunch of guys having fun and wrestling in a warehouse and doing like crazy stuff. It's if you want to watch it to watch outstanding pro wrestling matches, it's not the show for you. If you want to watch it just to laugh and have a good time, watch it. It's the guys, Grimm and his staff there. They're all very nice guys. Like a lot of people go, "Oh, why do you do that?" Well, number one, the guys are great to work with. They're fun. You get a lot of eyes on you because they have 1 million subscribers. I get paid every Monday to go up there. It's a booking every Monday. I go up there and it's like I get to defend the intergender title every week and do my gimmick and do what I want to do and just have a good time in that. And I'm becoming close with the guys there. But yeah, back to your point there with the little kid. Just coming off the WrestleMania thing with Nicholas, Grimm had a little kid win a tag title on the show. And like again, the storylines for Grimm's Toy Show are just all in fun. It's all tongue in cheek. Nobody's trying to bury anybody or anything. It's just a good time. And the subscribers, I think they have a good time watching. I mean, he has over 1 million. But anyway, so he put me in a match with a little kid, 8-year-old kid. It's one of the wrestler's son, and I just had fun. I didn't slam the kid. I didn't punch the kid. I didn't kick the kid. Heck, I didn't hit the kid at all. Like, I rolled him up at the end and pinned him. And that's about the gist of that.
I think you grabbed his tights, so I want to go back and watch, but I think you grabbed the tights on that roll-up.
Oh, no, that's, I would never do such a thing. I win my matches fair and square, clean, right down the middle.
I'll say this. I've seen many of the Grimm videos. My favorites were kind of the early days when they were out. The ring was out in the backyard and it's snow and they're in jackets wrestling each other. So I've seen it. I'm well familiar with the product. I'm pretty... And they went above and beyond, and they've been good to us on Twitter by retweeting a couple of our tweets here and there when we were, kind of talking about them. So thank you guys.
Yeah, like I said, I can't say enough good things about the guy Grimm himself, man. Like, he's just a good guy, and him and his buddies there, they're just having fun. And it's only a couple hours from my house, so I'm like, hey, every Monday, that's a gig I have every Monday now. Like, and I'm having a blast with him.
It's the best way to put it. It's kind of comedy parody wrestling on the internet.
Yeah, that's it. I usually call it like, you ever see the show Jackass? It's like Jackass meets wrestling. It's a lot of fun. It really is. Like if you watch it, it's just all in fun. That's all it's about. It's fun. They're not trying to put on Ring of Honor wrestling matches on this show. They're just having a good time, and I'm having a lot of fun with them.
The best was in Indiana when I got to meet you. In all fairness, you were super busy. I came at a bad time. But you walked by, I'm like, hey, James, and you go, hey. And you walked right by me. I'm like, I think I'm your podcast co-host, and you're busy going from, I think you're trying to figure out what table was what table. And my 9-year-old daughter looks over and goes, so he knows you, right? I'm like, he will, trust me.
Oh yeah, when I got there, I was getting pulled in a lot of different directions. They wanted me to speak to the guys, the local guys in the back, and so I had to do that. Then I had to figure out which table I was going to. But I had a lot of fun out there in Indiana, seeing all the old timers, me and Gene Okerlund and Cowboy Bob Orton, and my buddy Tatanka, who I used to ride with a little bit on the Independence about 10 years ago. So it was good to see him again. And then I rode to the show with Tito Santana. We had so much fun talking to each other. So it was a good time, man. Yeah, I had a very busy table, which I was very happy about. Like, when you go to these things, you don't want your line to be small, and I had a very nice line. I was very happy about that and appreciative of the fans out there in Indiana.
I don't think the lady liked me that was taking the money.
Yeah, she can't. I don't think she liked anybody. Nah, she was a sweet girl. I can't say anything bad about her. She was nice.
And you have a busy upcoming couple of weeks. You'll be in the UK. Is this your first trip over there?
Oh, no, I went over there several times with WWE, like 3 different tours. So I've been all over the UK, I think like 26 different cities over there. And But yes, first time since WWE, I'll be back in the UK, going to Glasgow, Scotland, and I'm going to London and I think Iceland. So I'll be over there for 4 days next week. That's next week, but I got a busy week before then. Thursday, I'm in Georgia. Friday, New York. Saturday, I'm in Canada, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Got to fly out there. Then Sunday, doing more Grimm's Toy Show filming, and then Monday, I'm flying to the UK. So I'm busy, brother.
Nice. I'm in St. Louis, Kansas City. Where else? I've got, and that's for fantasy football, but not for wrestling, because Lord knows I can't take a bump for crap. There it is. And by the way, while talking about Indiana, I do want to say, guys, keep listening. The outreach over the last week over episode number 1 and has been amazing. James and I have nowhere else to go but up as we get to know each other better. Because I interviewed you, Petey and I interviewed you once for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and that was the only time you and I have ever talked. So to be able to pull off a podcast with only talking that long, and a decent podcast, is pretty impressive.
Wrestling just brings people together, man. Like, you and I have both been wrestling fans our whole life. So, like, you just put us together and we talk wrestling, it's going to be a good conversation. And I think that's why the podcast has been successful thus far. Episode number 2 here, and hopefully we have nowhere to go but up. Hopefully it keeps going and we get some steam and we get some retweets and some followers and some subscribers, and just keep going, man. I'm having a blast here on the Cast.
What was your very first pay-per-view you ever got?
As a kid? Oh, man, that's a good question. Let me I know exactly which one it was. It was WrestleMania 4.
4?
Macho Man Randy Savage won the championship against the $1 Million Man. The main event of the tournament. Mm-hmm. Very cool. That was my first one I remember watching. I was like 5 years old.
I'm trying to remember the year off the top of my head. Mine was Halloween Havoc, and it was the wrap-up, I believe, to the Black Scorpion storyline.
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
Which that wound up being Flair, right?
Yeah, people poop on that storyline, but it was not. Growing up, and in hindsight, maybe it was bad, but growing up, being in it, I love that story. That still is one of my favorite storylines in all of wrestling.
Oh, man, the wrestling's a lot cooler when you're a kid. When you're growing up, you try to make sense of it. And there's no making sense of wrestling. Wrestling is supposed to be fun. And that's what I loved about my character at WWE and my character going forward after WWE right now. It's just a fun time character. Like, I work in front of to the crowd I'm in front of. Like, I play to the crowd I'm in front of. I'm in front of a bunch of kids. I'll be James Ellsworth, any man with 2 hands as a fighting champ. If I'm in front of a bunch of, like, Smart Mark fans with Bullet Club t-shirts and all, I'm really messing with them and trying to get under their skin because I know that's what they want. They love to hate James Ellsworth. So that's when you're a kid, the wrestling's just cartoony. It's cool and it's fun, man. And that's why that Black Scorpion thing you liked when you were a kid, because it was cartoony and fun.
That's a perfect segue into my next topic, which was how did you view the independent circuit before the WWE and the independent circuit after? Because when I first got into wrestling podcasts, I reached out to Vince Russo, who told me, don't do it, wrestling's dead, you're wasting your time. I said, I don't care if I have 1 listener or 1 million, I'm doing it because I love wrestling. And I wondered if you viewed it different from going from the top back down, but being at a top level of the independent circuit.
Well, man, I've been on I started in 2002, so I was on the independent circuit for 14 years before signing with WWE. And I was a struggling independent wrestler. Like, I was learning my craft and learning from the right people, such as Axelrod. And then if I ever saw a guy that made it to WWE in a locker room, I would make it a point to pick his brain. And there wasn't a lot of hot indies back then. But, man, like, here I am after WWE, after a 16-month run, and it's easy for me to get work. Not only that is that because I'm a former WWE superstar, but there's so many good indies out there now, and there's so many. The indies are thriving right now, and I think that's because there's not like a big alternative to the WWE. So I think people are finding other ways to watch wrestling, different kinds of wrestling, and indies are hot right now. It's the best probably it's ever been, and I'm having fun being a part of it.
I've been going to a lot of independent shows the last couple of years since starting to do this podcast. I'll be the first one to admit, I was one of those guys that was a WWF, WWE, WCW guy, and I didn't venture too much outside of that. It's time, growing up, family kind of stuff. Now that I do it, I'm finding that I'm enjoying stuff outside of WWE a lot more than the WWE. Not that the product's bad, it's just I'm seeing so much different stuff. It's exciting.
Well, WWE, it's not a bad product at all. It's just they have so much like content and so much time that not everything people are going to agree with it. Everything people are going to think is good. Like tonight, I just watched SmackDown, and it's going to be funny to some people me saying this, but I think Big Cass cut one hell of a promo.
Oh, yeah.
I believe this is going to be his coming out party, and I didn't see it before, like a star in him before that. He's a nice guy. He's and I knew he was good in the ring, but I didn't know if he quite had it. And after tonight, watching his promo, I think that was his coming out party. It was amazing, like stuff. And like if you haven't seen it yet, go back, watch it. He was on Miz TV, and it's just a whole new Big Cass. And I see it. I think that guy's going to be a champion, a WWE champion. Like just after that one promo, I'm like, yep, he has it.
It's amazing how the littlest tweaks, and I love when a guy goes from a face to a heel or a heel to a face, the little tweaks in character development, which we'll talk about the Shinsuke here in a minute. But you're right. Everything from coming out, putting on the jacket, then putting on the watch, walking down slowly. I tweeted out beforehand that Big Cass hasn't even said a word, and he's won me over.
Yep, absolutely. Well, here the thing about Big Cass is he was always in Enzo's shadow because Enzo was such a over-the-top character, and he was so good on the microphone, and just people just paid attention to him, and rightfully so. If he walks in the room, it doesn't matter if people are wrestling fans or not. You look at that guy, and you see his hair, and his tattoos, and just the way he acts, and people pay attention to him. So, now that Enzo's gone, and Big Cass, he's by himself. I was like, man, when he comes back to injury, he has to be different. He has to be different. Because, dude, like Big Cass at WWE, when I had very few, because he was on Raw when I was on SmackDown, times to talk to him, but he was always very nice to me. And like he's been a wrestling fan his whole life, and that's something that I can relate to. And I'm rooting for the guy. Like I'm wanting him to do good. And before the injury, when he was kind of by himself, when he had him turn on Enzo, I was like, man, he's got to find his niche. He's got to find his niche. And tonight, right before we did this podcast, watching SmackDown, I think he's found his niche, and I see a star in that guy.
I hate to say it, but I think the injury saved him, honestly. It gave them time to think about it, repackage him. We had a chance to, I guess, disconnect ourselves from the old Big Cass. So when he came back now, it's kind of fresh in our mind.
Man, I hate to agree with you, but I agree with you 100%. I'm proud of you. You made
Thanks.
A good point. Congratulations. About 2 weeks it took, but you did
it. Thanks, bud. But yeah.
I don't know about calling me bud yet. Maybe we'll get there one day.
Mr. Ellsworth.
Start off with one compliment, and then we'll see where it goes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ellsworth.
There we go. That's better. Now, moving on.
But I hope he doesn't team with The Miz. I want to see him stand on his own and see what he can do. I think if you pair him with the Miz and they go forward, he falls right back into being in someone else's shadow who has a bigger personality.
Well, coming out of that promo with the Miz tonight, I didn't feel like they were going to pair him with the Miz because he kind of stood up to the Miz. I think Kaz is his own guy coming out of that promo based on what I saw.
Yeah, I could see that, but they have, was it the friend of my enemy or my enemy of my friend is a friend of my enemy, something like that. I'm worried that might bring them together.
I don't see it. I think Big Cat's going to be his own man. We'll see. Well, only time will tell, but I think coming out of that, Big Cat will be his own man, and like I said, after tonight, I see a star in the guy. It's great. I'm very happy for him.
How'd you feel about Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance? I loved what they did to it.
Oh, it was perfect, man. You take away the crowd reaction, and it had a cool little rap beat to it, and they can't do the song, the crowd can't sing with it, and they explained it perfectly on commentary that Shinsuke Nakamura didn't want the crowd singing his entrance music on his way to the ring anymore. So it was a perfect way to describe that. It's a perfect heel tactic and maneuver, and I think it was very well done.
Yeah, here's my only issue right now, and they kind of, I don't want to use the word book themselves in the corner because it's not a fair, accurate description of what I'm about to say, but this was the worst time for the Superstar shakeup because everything seems like it's on hold on TV till we get past the Greatest Royal Rumble, till we get past a little bit of Backlash, and then we can start getting fresh new storylines for each show.
I mean, I think we got some fresh stuff going on. But yeah, fully, it's going to be full throttle after Backlash. Absolutely. But I do think they did put some fresh storylines, going forward. Like I said, there are the WrestleMania rematches, but, they've kind of planted the seeds for Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns. They're already wrestling each other at Backlash. My girl Carmella and Charlotte, they're in a storyline, so that's new. Going into Backlash. Got the Usos and the Bludgeon Brothers. That's still fairly new. Going into Backlash. So that's what I'm saying, man. I think there's some new stuff. And, the Miz and Daniel Bryan, I think it's going to be a slow build. Because also a new storyline with Big Cass and Daniel Bryan going into Backlash. Man, I'm really proving you wrong here, ain't I?
I don't know. Maybe. The jury's still out. Here's another issue I have. And I'll tell you what Petey had to say on the last Wrestling Perspective was, why are they giving away Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, was my question. Petey thinks WWE is a little bit worried that Daniel Bryan may not be around that much longer. He may suffer another concussion or a head injury, so they're trying to pack everything they can into a short period just in case. And then if he sticks around, then they can move into storylines. Hence why we got, Bryan versus Miz right away, and then, they're facing each other right off the bat in 3 house shows. Do you see something different, or is that, from Petey's point of view, an accurate description in your mind?
Well, possibly. Again, remains to be seen. He makes a good point there. That could be their thought, but who knows what's in their heads. To me, having them face on house shows is fine. It's not on TV. It's not to the majority of the audience. I'm hoping they don't do the match until SummerSlam. That's what I'm hoping. You build that match up until SummerSlam. You have, and it kind of looks like they're going in that direction. Daniel Bryan working with Big Cass in May at Backlash, and then we'll see what they do with Money in the Bank and pay-per-view right before SummerSlam. But yeah, it just depends, man. If he wrestles Miz in a couple of weeks with SmackDown, then we know that maybe that's true. They wanted to rush it just in case something happens with Daniel Bryan. But if they hold it off to SummerSlam and really make it a big deal, then they're just okay with Daniel Bryan right now going forward.
I hope you're right. I would, to me, that if done right, that could be a headlining main event for SummerSlam. It would have the heat behind it. People hate The Miz. People love Daniel Bryan. That promo. Let me ask you this: how, after they cut that promo on Talkin' Smack, the one that it put The Miz back on the map, what was the vibe around there?
Oh man, it was we're all like, wow, now that was a promo. That's how it's supposed to be done. And dude, I love Talking Smack. I had the opportunity to be on Talking Smack. I think it had to be 9 or 10 times. And when you went on Talking Smack, you had bullet points, but not a script. And you go in there and you tell the story the way you want to tell it. And that's why I think that show was so popular and successful. It was just our words. And by the time they just about took it off the air, I'd say the last month worth of episodes, we were handed a script, and it kind of watered it down. Because when The Miz did that exact promo, that was all The Miz. And The Miz, pun intended, is awesome. He doesn't need a script. He can just keep going. He's, micro machine guy on the microphone telling a story. And that was, that show was on the network. That wasn't on TV, but it got such a buzz because it was so good. It wound up being The Miz's most memorable promo of all time. And it wasn't on a Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-view. It was on Talking Smack on the network. So, and we all knew it backstage there. We all knew that, man, he had something special with that.
Oh, man, I could only imagine he gets done and people are high-fiving him as he's walking down the hallway.
Yeah, man, there's no better feeling than that. Just the respect from your peers. Just giving you props. It's the best feeling as a professional wrestler or maybe any athlete in the world.
In talking about props, at least I have to give some props to Impact Wrestling, who put out Redemption 18 over the weekend, and it got phenomenal reviews. People online loved it, and it seems like this new regime down there with Scott D'Amore and Cyrus and all these guys are really turning Impact around. Talking to Petey, he says, Scott's number one goal was the men fences that the old regime ruined with Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, and it seems like it's working.
Well, it's amazing what can happen when you have people that have been around the business and, helping out. That's what their problem was before. They just had Dixie, and, I don't know Dixie. I've never met Dixie, but just outside looking in, from my perspective, Dixie, she doesn't know anything about wrestling. She was just, a fan, really. And, Scott D'Amore and Sanjay Dutt and Jimmy Jacobs and Cyrus and all these guys that are booking the shows now, they're all wrestling guys. They've all been around it and grew up in it and been doing it since they were late teenagers or early 20s. And that's the kind of people you want to charge your company. And, the shows have been a lot better. I had the opportunity. I did out in California, Impact Wrestling ran a couple of shows with Big Time Wrestling. And I was on the shows, and I thought they were good shows. In the locker room, all the TNA, the Impact, people always say TNA. It's called Impact Wrestling now. It's not TNA anymore. It's Impact Wrestling. All the Impact Wrestling talent, they were all great guys. I had a good time with them. They made me feel welcome. I had so much fun at those two shows out in California, and I think they are headed in the right direction. It sucks. They had such a black eye on their product. It is going to be hard for them, but man, they had such a good buzz out of Redemption. Hopefully it continues for them. And I hopefully, I wish them nothing but success, and I hope, they turn the product around. If everybody's running a good product and the business is hot, that's a good thing.
I read an interview where you had said somewhere along the ways that Bray Wyatt was the first guy to kind of reach out and bring you into the main locker room, not in the enhancement talent locker room. At what point did you feel welcome in the WWE?
Right there when he did that, man. I had signed a contract, and I was I told myself, and I didn't tell anybody else this. This is me talking to myself in my head. Going, I am not going to that WWE male talent locker room until somebody invites me, because I'm not going to I'm signed now. I'm going to go in there. I mean, tough titty, said the kitty. I'm signed now. I'm going to go in. Nope. I was nope. I'm going to do it the smart way. I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to wait till somebody invites me in. And I was just walking into the arena one day, and Bray was walking in with me, and we were just talking. Bray was always nice to me, and so I was going to make that right towards Extra Talent, and Bray just goes, "Hey, where are you going, Ellsworth?" I was like, "I'm going to go to the Extra Talent room." He's like, "No." He's like, "You're signed here now. You're you're with us now, Ellsworth. You come with me, and you come in the locker room. If anybody has a problem with it, you tell them to talk to me. And I'm like, okay. So that's the first time, and I remember walking into the locker room for the first time. Everybody's just shaking my hand. Nobody felt, out of place about it or anything, and it was just cool. And dude, the SmackDown locker room when I was there, especially at first, it was the most fun. Like, also, everybody's like, one goal was to put on a good show. Cliche type of locker room you ever would be a part of, and dude, I'll never forget the SmackDown roster. I got there in September of 2016. It was my first SmackDown episode. From September 2016 to the first Superstar Shakeup, which was May, I believe, of 2017, late April, early May of 2017. From that time period, that was some of the best TV, and that was the best locker room I've ever been a part of, and I'll never forget that time period.
See, that's really cool. I've been in some indie locker rooms, and as I said, the first time I didn't meet you, but I saw you. It was the Hell in a Cell in Detroit. I was backstage with Petey. Most of my stories is me tagging along with Petey, by the way, as sad as that's going to sound. You walked back there with Shelton Benjamin, and I'll never forget this because you were back there and you were talking to everybody. And I kept going, Pete, can I go talk to him? Like the little kid, like, that's James Ellsworth. Look, I love Shelton Benjamin, but when you came up, I became an instant fan because, as you said, you were kind of every man's man, living the dream, and you connected with everybody. You've listened to many of the podcasts Petey and I did where all we did was put you over because, and now it sounds like I'm kissing your butt, but it was amazing. You lived the dream.
Absolutely did. And yeah, man, I was, just visiting friends that day in Detroit. There was an indie show there the day before Hell in a Cell, and Shelton and I were just riding together, and we have mutual friends, Mia Yim and Mercedes Martinez, and we were just coming there to hang out with them. We all went out to dinner afterward, and, we're all just friends. And, yeah, man, I'm not going to walk in any locker room and disrespect anyone, no matter how far I've been. To me, just not even when it comes to wrestling, just when it comes to being a human being. I think of it this way, man. We all have the same ending in life, and so we're all equal. Is the way I just look at it. I will treat someone with the same respect they treat me, But if I first meet you, I will respect you, and then again, if you respect me, then that's it. We're cool. But if it goes the other way, you got to start it first. I'm not going to start it first because there's no reason for it. We're all the same. So when I walked in the locker room that day, man, a lot of the boys, and coming up, hey man, it's so cool you're here. Can we get a picture? I'm like, yeah, whatever, cool. And I know what it's like to be hungry on the indies for years and years and years, and meeting guys that are in WWE or were in WWE while you're in independents, in locker rooms. It's a cool thing for the guys, and I know that, and that's why I always be nice to everyone, man. I've no, my ego was never out of place because I made it WWE and never will be.
The only quick hit, by the way, we'll do the quick hit in a second, but. Yeah, as I said, you came in and I geeked out, and Petey was like, "Dude, no, don't do that." But I just so you know, that was actually the first time you and I ever met, but kind of.
Well, yeah, you could have came up and talked to me. That would have been no problem.
Now I know.
We went to Buffalo Wild Wings there in Detroit afterwards. It was a good time.
See, that's really cool. How did you like Detroit, by the way?
I didn't get to see much of it, man. I went to the shelter where Eminem performed in that movie in 8 Mile because I'm a big Eminem fan. So that's the only site I really saw there. And I've been to Detroit 2 or 3 times. Detroit was where I actually got my second WWE title match, which didn't last that long, against AJ Styles because I guess Dean Ambrose wasn't my good luck charm that night. I had turned on him by then. And without my good luck charm, I just couldn't defeat AJ Styles for some reason. So Detroit will always have a big place in my heart because I did have a WWE title match, no matter how short it was, in Detroit.
That's one more than me and Petey.
Well, I've had 2 WWE title matches. The first one I actually won by disqualification. That was in Denver, Colorado, and that was one of the most fun crowds I've ever performed in front of. They were so loud for the match, and I owe the people at Denver, Colorado a lot because they helped me become a star that night. It was so cool.
Let's, as we said, the hot take on Raw. The only real thing from Raw that I took away that I feel like we should talk about on the podcast is the pairing of Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, which is phenomenal. We talked a little bit about it last week. I want to touch on it once again this week. They looked amazing as a tag team. The only critique I have as a fan, they need to stop the record scratching of Dolph Ziggler now. He's moved on from that. It's a whole different storyline. Time to drop that. You either have him come out with no music or all the music, but let's just stop the record scratching.
Well, the record scratching goes right into the music now. Before it didn't. Mm-hmm. And and I will say this on this podcast, on the Duhcast, I'm a homer when it comes to Dolph Ziggler because he's one of my buddies, and he's always been super cool to me. I could send him a text right now, and he'll text me back 3 minutes later. That's just how nice of a guy he is. And so I'm a big advocate of his, and I hope, whatever his decision is that when his contract's up, I hope the one he makes right for him. But right now, this pairing with Drew McIntyre he should stay because it is really, really good. They had a heck of a tag team. They look like a well-oiled machine in that tag match on Raw, and it is a unique pairing. And it reminds everyone of Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Drew McIntyre, I think this run for him is going to be better than his last one. He's in better shape. He's more focused. He's more matured, obviously, than, 7-8 years ago. And I think he's a future champion as well. And, yeah, man, it's a great pairing, and hopefully it benefits them both in the long run.
And some would say you look just like him, by the way.
And Dolph Ziggler, we always joke and say we were brothers, like twin brothers. It's funny.
Let's get on, before we get to the fan questions and a little bit of promoting, let's just give our quick takes about the greatest Royal Rumble, since this is the last Duhcast leading up into it. The Universal Championship in a steel cage. Who do you think walks away with this, Brock or Roman Reigns?
It's weird because I don't know if this is supposed to be a pay-per-view or just a live event special on the network. Like, I don't know. It has both feelings to me. I'm 50-50 about it. If it was like a pay-per-view, like it's supposed to be a pay-per-view, I would say Roman Reigns is walking out. But if it's just a live event that's on the network, Brock Lesnar's walking out. So, I mean, if I had to make a prediction, I'll say Brock Lesnar retains, believe it or not. I think he will.
I'm kind of with you. I think Brock Lesnar retains. There's no reason to take it off of him right now. Putting it on Roman Reigns, people won't cheer him at this point.
I think it would have hurt him more than help him, and it sucks for me, man, because I think Roman Reigns is a hell of a talent, and I want him to be the champion. But I almost think at this point maybe it's better for him to turn heel, then become the champion. I think that benefited him more than them just trying to make him a cookie-cutter babyface of being the champion right now.
See, I don't even want him to turn heel. It worked for... Listen, people forget John Cena was booed mercilessly most of his, John Cena hustle, loyalty, respect. And then he went into this aging, not winning matches as much, and it was a storyline that made people connect with him, and people cheer him now. And I love it. It's too early for Roman Reigns to do that, but I just think you keep powering through. The same people that will boo him are booing him now, turning him heel. They're just still boo him, but they're not going to boo him because he's a heel.
Yeah, he gets a reaction no matter what. Mm-hmm. So that's the good thing. Like, no matter what, he's getting a reaction, whether they cheer him, boo him, or anything in between. The man gets a real big reaction when he comes out. But dude, I just think he could be one of the greatest heels in a long time. And I know dude. If you watch his NXT stuff as a heel, he's a great promo as a heel. So maybe that's just what I have in the back of my head. I know his heel work just from watching it, and I just hope to see it soon.
AJ versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Who you going with?
I think AJ will retain. I just have a feeling that at the end of the day, this is going to be a live event network special. And maybe I'm wrong. It's just the first time they've done it, so we don't know. But I think Shinsuke will eventually win the title, but not right now. I think AJ is kind of like their guy right now.
See, I'm going to go with Shinsuke. They've updated his music. He's playing the heel character. I think AJ plays a perfect role of chasing that belt right now, and I think it would help Shinsuke really put over that heel persona holding that belt.
Well, if Shinsuke takes the L, maybe I'll give him a call and give him some pointers on how to defeat AJ Styles.
Seth Rollins, Miz, Finn Balor, and Samoa Joe for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know. This is another one of those where you go, I don't know. You have to play in your mind that these guys are all on different brands. Where do they want the belt to end up? I guess I'll say that Seth Rollins retains just because it's the Miz and Seth Rollins at Backlash.
Yeah, I think Seth Rollins will retain. But, man, wouldn't it be cool if, like, Samoa Joe won the Intercontinental title and then Jinder Mahal beat Jeff Hardy for the U.S. title? So the U.S. title goes back to Raw and the Intercontinental title goes to SmackDown. Just do a little switcheroo there.
Absolutely. I'm one of the few people that believe that no one but the Miz should hold that Intercontinental Championship right now.
He's got to be on the same show as the Intercontinental title, and they can do it that way where Samoa Joe wins it and he brings it to SmackDown. And Jinder Mahal, defeats Jeff Hardy for the U.S. title, and that goes back to Raw. They could do that. So that's my bold prediction. Like, that's the way it's going to happen.
I like it. I actually do. John Cena versus Triple H, and I don't know why they put this match other than star power. No storyline.
Star power, you just say it. Yeah,
no
star power. People are going to react to it, especially over there. Even like you and I sit here, like we're not too interested in the match, but if it's on, we're not going to not watch it. It's going to be, dude. I bet you they put on one hell of a match too. I bet you it's match of the night. But two great workers, two great wrestlers, two great characters. That's going to be a hell of a match. That's why you do it, because it's just going to be good no matter what.
So my thought process in picking the winner here is, are they going to continue with the John Cena maybe losing a step storyline by losing to Triple H? Because I'm not sure a loss would help the John Cena storyline. If there's one continuing, a win doesn't really help John Cena, but doesn't even hurt Triple H with a win or a loss here.
Yeah, nobody's hurting either way. I mean, they're both, first ballot Hall of Famers. No matter what they do the rest of their careers, they could lose a million times, win a million times. It doesn't matter. I think Cena will win the match because, just in a situation like that where it doesn't really matter, the babyface usually goes over.
Undertaker versus Rusev in a casket match. I think no-brainer, Undertaker.
Maybe somehow Aiden English will just get stuffed in a casket. Undertaker will win the match. It's really like Rusev to me, man. It's that Rusev Day thing's so hot, and I wish they would just capitalize on it a little more. I mean, they have with merchandising, and he's been on the show more and all. But man, I want to see the guy get pushed. He's a believable badass, and he's over with this Rusev Day thing. I want to see the guy go to the next level. So hopefully, maybe this will be his last hurrah as doing a big job, because that's been the situation with Rusev his whole career. At the end of the day, he does the big job. At the end of the day, he jobs to John Cena at WrestleMania. That's what was his first loss for the U.S. title. And at the end of the day, he's going to job to the Undertaker in his casket match. And, and he's done that numerous times. Jobs to Randy Orton and John, he needs to win the big one. And hopefully he does one day, because this Rusev Day thing is very, very popular with the fans.
I'm with you. It's going to be the Undertaker. I fell in love with Rusev during him and Cena's, what was it? It was the flagpole match? Yeah,
it was Battleground, that pay-per-view that nobody liked in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I thought that was when I really started to enjoy Rusev. There was after that match.
Yeah, that was the pay-per-view that got a lot of bad.
Yeah.
And well, that was during my angle where I was suspended for 30 days, and I was so upset, man, because I like to work. I like to do the house shows, or the live events, as they call them. I like to do the pay-per-view. I like to do everything. I was like, man. Then I watched the pay-per-view. I was like, it's kind of okay. I wasn't a part of that. So I remember that, yeah.
What do they do when you're kayfabe suspended for 30 days? What do they have you do? Do you do anything, or do they just send you home?
I went to the beach, man. That's what I did. There's pictures. And dude, I was upset, man. I told him, I said, can I do the live event still, like where I just run through the crowd and try to, like help Carmella win matches, and you have a security guard throw me out. Like it'd be a cool angle every night on the house shows. And they did think about it, and then they told me, nah, Vince just, he wants this to feel real. So which made sense. I agreed with him at the end of the day. It did need to feel real, and it's half pregnant. Like the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn getting fired story was so half pregnant the whole time because they were on TV every week, and then the payoff was they got hired back by email, so that felt half pregnant the whole time. Which with my suspension felt real. I was gone for a month. They did it right. I was gone for a month, and I agree. I agreed with it at the end of the day. At first, I was mad, but I understood it and agreed with it. When it was all said and done.
This email thing, it's going to end with them finding out that email was forged, right? There's no. That's the next possible step to the storyline, right?
I mean, Stephanie hasn't been on the show since, so maybe that was just their way of just ending that because they didn't feel like going forward with that storyline anymore, because that's what it felt like to me. Like to me, man, I would have had those guys, like the independent shows that WWE has relationships with, like Evolve or This Is Progress or whoever. I would send those guys there to work to make it feel real, like they're on the indies and they're using the Kevin Steen and El Generico names. And I don't know, man, it could have been a real cool thing, and it just felt real half pregnant to me because they were on TV every single week. They were at all the live events doing run-ins through the crowd. They never were gone. They were never fired. It never felt like they were fired. And those guys know that. Kevin and Sami are real smart. It's not their fault. They're not writing this. Like they were trying. Like Kevin Owens changed his Twitter handle to Kevin Steen, and they were selling Kevin Steen and El Generico shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees. So I know those two were trying because they're smart guys about the business. But they were trying to get it over, and some stuff's just out of their hands. And I don't know. To me, that could have been a real cool thing.
All right, let's quickly finish up with the next couple so we can get the fan email and send everybody home happy. Hardy Mahal. I'm going with Jinder. How about you?
Yeah, like it's part of my bold prediction. I think Samoa Joe wins the Intercontinental title. Jinder Mahal wins the U.S. title. That way they switch brands, and it's kind of a unique thing, and that's my bold prediction. And Jinder came off another loss to Chad Gable and SmackDown. Let's go back to Raw. He lost to Chad Gable and Raw this week. They're both Raw guys now. I'm just used to them being there with me on SmackDown. But he lost to Gable, and I'm like, man, and Jinder's my guy. I want Jinder to be my heel, my killer heel. And he lost again. I'm like, all right, well, he's lost twice, so maybe the way they book stuff, he has to win the U.S. title.
Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos. I'm going Bludgeon Brothers retain. How about you?
Yeah, same thing. They just won them, and they're kind of making them the monster tag team. So yeah, they'll retain.
Raw tag team, Bar versus Hardy Wyatt. It's the Raw brand, so the Bar being on SmackDown, if they win it, do they go back over the Raw, which would make sense? I'm going to say the Bar wins it and is forced back over the Raw.
Well, if the Bar wins it, that would mean Bray would have to turn on Matt right then and there. And I don't think that's going to happen that early, especially on that event that's not really a pay-per-view. It's happening at noon on a Friday. So I think Matt Hardy and Bray win the tag titles. It's kind of a big thing. It's going to be all over social media. And then eventually Bray Wyatt will turn back on Matt. And so I think Matt and Bray win the tag titles.
In the greatest Royal Rumble, Braun Strowman is my pick. I think that might be the no-brainer.
Either well, yeah, I'm going to go Strowman, but my second pick would be Mark Henry. I think he's in it because he's on coach support. And that would be a good way for him to, retire and go out just by winning that. But I think we'll go with the young dude, my dude, Braun Strowman, the guy who made me a star. I think he will win it.
All right, let's hit some of these emails and then a quick promotion here and there. Jay in California emails us and says, James, have you ever been in a hardcore match and does it really hurt?
Oh, absolutely, man. I was trained by the hardcore chair swinging freak, Axl Rotten. So he would take me around the indies, numerous different states, and he would hit me over the head with a chair. So, yeah, and I've wrestled Rebecca Payne, and she used to be the queen of deathmatch for IWA. Wrestled her in a deathmatch. in Virginia, won in front of a lot of people. But yeah, it hurts, man. Like wrestling in general hurts. When you just take a regular bump in the ring, it hurts. Wrestling, it's not ballet, man. It hurts. Yeah, hardcore wrestling, getting hit with light tubes and chairs and going through tables, all that stuff hurts, of course.
We've got a couple of these emails, but I picked Elliot from New York, who emailed and said, "Who is Dennis Farrell?"
And I still don't know.
That's kind of true. So a quick, I don't know, second or two background on me. I started doing fantasy football podcasts in 2009. I got hired with ESPN. I had 2 ESPN radio shows giving fantasy football advice. I did the Detroit Lions pregame show with Herman Moore for a couple of years. Fox Sports, Armed Forces, all fantasy football. And about a year and a half ago, I decided that, you know what, I'm kind of burnt out on fantasy football. I've reached the top of the levels. I had a cable TV show in New York doing fantasy football. I'm burnt out. I want to do something I truly love. I'm in the process of scrapping fantasy football and doing wrestling kind of full time for me. So that's kind of who I am.
Well, now that we got that out of the way, next question, please.
Thank you, Joanne from Michigan. Great first show. Great first show, everyone. Thank you for taking my email. James, who did you ride along with the most in the WWE?
Thanks, Joanne from Michigan. Well, out of the wrestlers that you'll know, at first, man, until he got traded to Raw in the first Superstar Shakeup, I was riding with Rhino a lot. Then I would ride with Mojo Rawley a lot, Shinsuke Nakamura a lot, and then one of the referees, Dan Engler, used to be Rudy Charles in TNA. Petey will know him real well. Rode with him probably more than anybody because we were both cheapskates and like to share a room and a car and save money. But yeah, out of the wrestlers, Shinsuke, Mojo Rawley, and Rhino were like the main guys. Rode with Shelton a little bit towards the end. Mike Bennett towards the end of my run there. But yeah, mostly just Rhino, Mojo, and Shinsuke.
Ooh, we're going to have to talk next podcast a little Shinsuke stories. That's got to be fun. But Don from Atlanta, it was cool to hear that you have your own wrestling promotion. If you had to compare your style of booking matches to someone that we may all know, who would it be, and who taught you how to book matches?
Once again, my trainer Axel Rott taught me how to do it because he would sit there and watch Paul Heyman do it, and that's what I try to do, man. Like when I book matches, I try to I got to have a little bit of everything. I have to have a cruiserweight match where the guys are flipping around. I got to have 2 big guys go at it. I got to have a tag match. Got to have a girls match. Got to have a comedy match. Like I try to me, a wrestling show is a circus. You have to have your elephants, your clowns, your acrobats, and your lions, and everything in between. That's what I try to give the fans, a little bit of everything on the show.
And finally, before we get over to our promotion part of the podcast, Larry from Chicago, let's see here. Ooh, he's not a good speller, but Larry basically wants to know, has anybody reached out to you from like Ring of Honor or Impact to be on any of their shows since you left WWE?
Well, I won't let any cats out of the bag or whatever. I have been in talks with other major wrestling promotions. I won't say which one, and there might be something that comes about from it by the end of the summer. We'll see what happens. But right now, as we sit here, I'm a free agent, enjoying the independence, doing numerous shows in numerous countries all around the world, and I'm having a great time. But by the end of the summer, you may very well see me back with television. We'll see.
Oh, that's cool. I'll be, once again, on podcast with 2 people on television while I sit at home and watch you guys.
Oh, I mean, if you had an athletic bone in your body, you'd be in the ring too. Duh.
Hey, I played elementary school baseball once.
Yeah, you struck out, you sat down, they never let you bat again.
That's fair, very fair assessment. All right, as we wrap this up, you had a big announcement on Twitter. I thought you might want to take a second to talk about you going on the Chris Jericho boat cruise.
Man, I'm so excited for that. I mean, who wouldn't be excited to be able to cruise with Chris Jericho and a bunch of other talented guys going from Miami to the Bahamas? And Chris Jericho, man, I can't say enough nice things about the guy. Since day one when I wrestled Braun Strowman, he called me on the phone that night, got my number from one of the referees. One of the referees there is my best friend, Derek Moore. I've known him forever. And he got my number from him, and he just told me good job. And then the next day he tweeted out, I got to have this kid, James Ellsworth, on my podcast. I want to learn more about him. And then when they came to Baltimore a month later, he had me on the podcast. And, I mean, that really got me over with a lot of people at WWE. And, he's just always been good to me. I call him my wrestling big brother. And I'm just, like, I didn't know if he was going to put me on his cruise or not. He was, naming a lot of people and advertising a lot of people, mostly Ring of Honor guys, because Ring of Honor is going to tape TV on that cruise, it looks like. I believe. Don't quote me on that in case I'm wrong. But, man, I hope he picks me for the cruise. And then when he did, I think he was, I don't know if he was rubbery or not, because if you go watch his announcement about me being on his cruise, he writes on Instagram, he writes, of course James Ellsworth is going to be on the cruise. That's what he wrote on the thing. Like, I guess he knew the whole time. And he just waited to tell me. But, yeah, like I said, man, he's like, I consider him my wrestling big brother. I owe a lot to him. And whenever he needs me to do on that cruise, I know there's a few ideas floating around what I am going to do, but I can't wait to be a part of it. And it's going to be a great time. And what a unique thing, a rock and wrestling cruise. Like, it's going to be awesome, man. I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Any other bookings you want to promote? As we said many times already tonight, Grimm's Toys. That's pretty cool for you. I'm going to start watching religiously now. Anything else? And social media?
Oh yeah, man. Well, this week, I'm doing Wrestle Jam. That's what it's called. A lot of big names on that show. Arn Anderson's on it. Jimmy Hart, myself, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. That's this Thursday. That's going to be in Georgia. So check that out. It's going to be on my Instagram. You can find information for that. Then Friday, I'm in New York for FTW Wrestling. So I think it's FTWPro.com for information on that. Now Queens, New York. Saturday, I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, defending the intergender title against this lovely lady named Madison Miles. That's for Ultimate Championship Wrestling. You can look them up. I'll be there Saturday. And then Sunday, filming Grimm's Toy Show, which you can find every week. Just go to YouTube and look up Grimm's Toy Show. And if you're looking for great, outstanding, athletic maneuver wrestling, don't watch it, because that's not what you're going to get. What you're going to get with that is just a bunch of guys having fun, having a good time wrestling, and that's all we're doing there. And then Monday, I head off to UK for next week. I'm going to Glasgow, Scotland to do some Q&As. Then I'm wrestling IPW against Jimmy Havoc in London on May the 2nd. So, yeah, I'm busy. Tomorrow's my last day off before it really gets nuts.
Yeah, and we'll work out the recording schedule, so fans of the Dougcast, it may be a day late due to the time change in scheduling, but we'll figure it out for you guys. As far as me, don't forget, myself and Petey Williams on the same feed do the Wrestling Perspective podcast that drops Thursday nights, WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. Feel free to go subscribe and tell a friend. We're giving away autographed pictures of you, James, which I personally went and got autographed. We got some of Petey Williams. We're giving away to fans, just giving them away for listening. And all you have to do is subscribe and tell a friend, and then just email us and tell us that you did that, and we will put you in a drawing to win these pictures. We'll give one away every couple weeks until we run out.
Absolutely, man. I'll say this a million times on this Dougcast. I appreciate wrestling fans and what they did for me, helping me fulfill my dream, and that was the fans that did that for me. So anything I can personally do to give back to the fans, I try my best to do, and I appreciate them listening to this podcast. It's been a lot of fun, the first 2 episodes, and I'm anxious to see going forward how far we can take this thing.
There we go, guys. This is the Dougcast episode 2. Thanks for listening.